This video I will discuss genetics and genetic history. Human genetics is the study of inheritance as it occurs in human being. Human genetics encompasses a variety of overlapping fields including classical, cytogenetical, molecular, biochemical, population, developmental, clinical, and genetic counseling. Genes can be a common factor of the qualities of most human inherited traits. The study of human genetics can be useful as it can answer questions about human nature, understand the diseases, and development of effective disease treatment. Genetic differences in inheritance pattern of traits for humans are based upon Greg Mendel model of inheritance. Greg Mendel is also the father of genetics. Mendel's deduced that inheritance depends on discrete units of inheritance called factors and genes. What is autosomal dominant inheritance? You can see that affected father has dominant traits and unaffected mother has traits, and those traits go out to the children, and the children are affected or unaffected, depends on what dominant genes they get. Autosomal traits are associated with a single gene on an autosome, non-sex chromosomes that are called dominant, because a single copy inherited from either parent is enough to cause this trait to appear. This often means that one of the parents must also have the same trait unless it has risen due to the new mutation. For the examples of autosomal dominant traits and disorders are Huntington's disease and achondroplasia. Examples of the dominant pattern are widow's peak, hitchhiking thumb, and brown eyes. And certain traits I have are the widow's peak, which I had when I was a kid, and brown eyes, which I got from my mom and dad and great parents, and my thumb is regular. I don't have the hitchhiker's thumb. The autosomal recessive inheritance. You have an unaffected carrier father and an unaffected carrier mother. Now each parent has a dominant trait, and the traits are assumed from their kids. And if a parent has two parents have 4 kids, there's a 2 out of the 4 chance that the kids will inherit their genes. Autosomal recessive traits are a pattern of inheritance for a trait, disease, or disorder to be passed on through families. For a recessive trait or disease to be displayed, 2 copies of the trait or disorder needs to be presented. The trait or gene will be located on a non-sex chromosome because it takes 2 copies of the trait to display. Many people can unknowingly be carriers of the disease. And here's an X-linked and Y-linked inheritance. This is just a typical structure of how affected males and females chromosomes can be spread out from generation to generation. And here is an example of Coffin-Lowry syndrome. which is caused from a mutation in the ribosomal protein gene. This mutation results in skeletal, craniofacial abnormalities, mental retardation, and short structure. X chromosomes in females undergo a process known as X inactivation, in which one of two chromosomes in females is almost completely inactivated. It is important that this process occurs, otherwise in a woman, which will reduce twice the amount of normal X chromosome proteins. Y-linked inheritance occurs when a gene, trait, or disorder is transferred to the Y chromosome. Since Y chromosomes can only be found in males, Y-linked traits are only passed on from father to son. And here's just a chart of genetic and rare conditions. And some are autism, colon cancer, Crohn's disease, cystic fibrosis, Down syndrome, and let me see if there's anything on there I have in my family. I think we have cancer and diabetes. And here's another sequence chart. Class of mutation and chromosomal mutation inversion. Other genetic orders may be complex, multifactorial, polygenic, meaning they're likely associated with the effects of multiple genes in a combination with lifestyles and environmental factors, like diabetes. On a pedigree, polygenic diseases do tend to run in families, but the inheritance does not fit simple patterns as Mendelian diseases. This does not mean that the genes cannot eventually be located and studied. There's also a strong environmental component to many of them. For example, blood pressure, which should be checked very often. Some examples are asthma, cancers, diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, mood disorder, obesity, and infertility. Thanks for listening to my genetics video. Signing out. Thank you.